Hey guys, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the stars, and if you get stuck, hopefully I think I think I have a program somewhere where I wrote out all the stars, but let me tell you a little bit about the anatomy of the stars so that you can get C and D. The first thing is you got to understand the loop structure, and this is why it gets hard, is because there's nested loops in here. So when you start out, there's a couple loops to pay attention to. The first one is the outer loop, and that is going to control how many lines you go. So if you have, say you have star, oops, that's an 8, star, 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 that's 4 lines. So the outer loop, this outer loop is going to be for int I equals 0, I less than 4, I plus plus. So that's your outer loop, and everything's going to go in the outer loop. So you just need to count how many lines you need to go, and that will be your control for the outer loop. So the outer loop isn't that hard. The next thing is every time you're done, you go through an iteration of the outer loop, you need to go to the next line. So at the bottom of the outer loop, I would stick in system.out.println with nothing in it. That's just going to make you go to the next line. So every time you do the outer loop, go to the next line. Now the hard part comes in the inner loop. The inner loop is how many stars you want to print. So I'll put in here how many stars you want to print. So for instance, if we go back to this example, if we go star, 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 okay? On the first iteration, we want to print 1, next one we want to print 2, next one we want to print 3. So this line, it has to change. So there's 2 types of loops. There's a dynamic loop and a static loop. So a static loop would look like this. For int I equals 0, I less than 1, I plus plus. So that's going to print 1 star, because inside it you're going to have system.out.print star. And the reason why we call that a static loop is because it never changes. It's just printing the same thing over and over. But clearly that's not what we want, so we have to look at it and change it based on something else. So in this case, I should not call it I, I'm going to call it J because it's an inner loop. And J has to depend on something that's changing. So if we just mess around with it a little bit, let's make it based on J less than I. Okay? So the first time, I is going to be 0, okay, and J is going to be 0, right? So as long as J is less than I, so it's not going to print any stars the first time. That's not what we want. Not what we want. What if we did J less than I plus 1? So now let's look at it. I is 0, J is 0. We go into the loop. Is J less than I plus 1? So J is 0, I is 1. Well, I'm sorry, I is 0, I plus 1 is 1. So it's going to print 1 star here. Okay? Let's look at the next time. I goes to 1, right? J goes to back to 0. So J equals 0. I now equals 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So is J less than 2? Yes, it is. So it's going to print 2 stars. And it's going to print 3 stars. Then it's going to print 4 stars. So that's the anatomy of the inner loop. Now the next thing is you need a totally separate loop for the spaces. So some of you are getting stuck on the spaces. The spaces work the same way as the other inner loop. K equals 0, K less than something, K plus plus. So you need to find out in here system.out.print space. You need to find out what in here makes this print spaces. So for instance, if this was looking like this, right? We have the backwards ones. Those all need spaces first, and then they need to print number